Excuse me. All right, Lori, let's move to slide 2. So this talk will probably be very familiar because it covers a lot of the material we covered last week. It's all about how to be backup net control. And being backup net control is just like being net control, except you have to do it backwards and in high heels. Although high heels are optional, I'm wearing flats today. So what's this job all about? How do you do it? What tools do you need? How to do check-ins? And then how to write up the documentation at the end. And finally, one with a big pitch. All right, Lori, let's move to slide 3. So what's the role of backup net control? Well, it's simple. You have to be ready to become primary net control if the primary somehow loses connectivity to the net. And when you detect that happens, you become net control. So the point is that you have to be following along, know where we are in the script, and so forth, so that you can just pick up right at that point and finish the net. Lori, let's do slide 4. All right, so as you heard this morning, the net control asks for a backup net control at the beginning of the net, and usually we get one, and that's good. That was me today. So then once we've identified the backup net control, the primary proceeds with the net. And of course, as I said before, if the primary somehow stops talking, then the backup takes over. Now, of course, it can be a little tricky because we have a backup repeater, and if something goes wrong with the primary repeater, then we will try to switch the net to the backup repeater. So you have to be a little nimble, try to figure out what's going on, switch to the backup repeater to see if maybe the primary switched to that. But in any event, if you detect that the primary net control is no longer talking, then you take over. And that's basically it. So, of course, in order to take over, you have to be copying the call signs as the check-ins proceed so that you can either complete the check-ins or, in particular, do the checkouts at the end. So usually that's the main job of the backup net control, is to copy call signs. All right, let's move on to slide 5. What tools do you need? Well, you need a radio, of course, and I've tried to do net control over Zoom, but I think doing it over the radio is better, in part because it makes Bruce happy, and also because, really, what's the point? The point is to practice radio. So, yeah, we want to do it over the radio. So you need a radio that can get into the primary repeater, the 442.150 repeater, full quieting, and of course to be able to get into the backup repeater, 147.225 repeater. So you want to, of course, test your radio setup so that you're ready to go and you know that you can get into the repeaters. And you'll want a copy of the OCRA script that you can download. There's a link on the slides, most of us read the script. I know some people have pretty much memorized it. I'm pretty sure Steve, KZ1X, has memorized the script, and he can beat net control no matter where he is. So, of course, you'll need something to write on and a couple of pens. You'll be writing down the call signs and taking other notes as the net proceeds. And then finally, of course, you need some way to post the documentation at the end, a radio and membership in the OCRA Groups IO account. All right, Lori, let's do slide 6. Okay, this is the net script. I'm not going to talk about this in great detail. You've been listening to Steve read the script, or reciting it from heart. And of course, you can download the script and familiarize yourself with it. So you'll definitely want to download the script. All right, Lori, let's do slide 7. So you'll be taking notes during the net. Primarily what you'll be doing is copying call signs and then taking additional notes as necessary, who's making announcements and so forth and so on. So you can write this stuff on the script, but I personally find it just easier to have a blank notepad and just write on that. Whatever works for you, of course. All right, Lori, let's do slide 8. So you heard Steve do the check-ins. Of course, we do it by group suffix order, by groups, and then at the end, the net control will request any additional check-ins, Alpha through Zulu. So, of course, this is when you'll be writing down the call signs as people check in. It's actually great to practice copying call signs, even if you aren't back in Epic Control, so that you get good at it. All right, I think that's all I have to say about the check-in process. Lori, let's move on to slide 9. So because, the reason we have these repeaters really, and the reason that we're allowed to have a repeater on the big UNC TV tower, is because we can provide a vital communications resource in the event of an emergency. And so one way that we justify our use of that tower is by doing these regular nets. And part of that process is documenting the fact that we are having these nets regularly. So the final job of the net control or the backup net control is to post an email to the OCRA reflector documenting the net. Typically, the easiest thing to do is just to get a copy of the email that was posted by some other net control, and then just copy and paste that and change the details. So I should mention one thing I always forget to do is write down what time that it ended. I've gotten better at that, but that's one thing you'll be sure to write down in your notepad is when it ended, so you can say how long it was. All right, Lori, let's go to slide 10. So here's my big pitch. We need more net controls. How do you learn to be net control? Well, there are two things to do. One is to practice copying call signs. When we used to get together for breakfast before COVID, Dee and I would sit across the table from each other, and every net, each of us would pull out a little slip of paper and copy call signs. And the more you do it, the better you get. In fact, I can typically write out a complete call sign when I hear the first letter at this point, because I just recognize people's voices. Now, the other best way, actually, to practice being backup net control is to be net control, right? Because that's what you're going to have to do if we lose the primary net control. So I encourage everyone to sign up and practice being the actual net control. There are lots of ways to practice. You could see if you could go to visit another experienced ham and work together, or have the ham coach you as you actually practice being net control. Again, practice copying call signs. And finally, I'll just say, the first time you do it, it's like incredibly nerve-wracking. You don't think you're going to be able to copy the call signs. You have to ask people to repeat a lot. That's fine. The whole point of this is to communicate clearly. And if you aren't hearing people's call signs, either because they talk before they push the mic or they're in the noise, then you just keep at it until you get an accurate copy of the call signs. That's what it's all about, really. All right, so I'll look forward to, we got a lot of people listening today, so I'll look forward to a lot of folks signing up to be net control or calling in and saying, yeah, I'll be back up on the next net. All right, any questions? Nothing heard. Okay, either I put you all to sleep or I was so clear that you have nothing to ask. All right, thanks a lot.